The rain came down in thin silver threads that blurred the glass walls of the lavish restaurant overlooking Manhattan. Inside, laughter from expensive suits filled the air, clinking glasses echoing like coins in a vault. Yet, in one corner, a young woman sat quietly, her hands resting on her small, trembling stomach. Her name was Lena Carter, and the man sitting across from her, cold eyes, perfect posture, and a smile too sharp to be human, was her husband, Ethan Wolfe, the billionaire CEO everyone admired and secretly feared. Ethan controlled everything: his company, his image, his wife. He was the man who made headlines for donations to children's hospitals, yet behind closed doors, his love felt like a cage. Lena had once believed she could fix him, that beneath his arrogance lived the same boy who had held her hand in college. But power changes people. It didn't make him strong, it made him cruel. That night, he was angry because she had gone out without his driver. "You don't understand the world, Lena," he hissed under his breath, eyes flickering with controlled rage. "You make me look weak when you do things your way." She didn't reply. Her heart was pounding. Everyone in the restaurant knew who he was, but no one would ever speak against him. That was the kind of power Ethan had, not built on respect, but on fear. When she stood up to leave, he grabbed her wrist, a little too tight. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't say a word. She was pregnant, his child, the one thing she hoped might change him. But the only thing she saw in his face was control. People noticed. A waiter froze, his tray shaking. A couple at the bar whispered. But no one moved, because Ethan Wolfe wasn't just a man. He was money, and money made people blind. Until they walked in. The door opened with a gust of wind and the sound of heavy boots against marble. 3 men in leather jackets stepped inside, soaked from the rain, tattoos running down their arms like stories carved in skin. They weren't supposed to fit in here. The restaurant was the kind of place that turned away anyone without a reservation and a Rolex. But these men didn't need an invitation. They moved with the kind of confidence born not from money, but from survival. The leader, tall, graying beard, eyes soft despite his rough exterior, saw the scene immediately. Ethan's grip, Lena's trembling, the fear. He walked closer, ignoring the maitre d', who stuttered, "Es sir, this is a private establishment." The biker didn't even look at him. "Lady, you all right?" he asked Lena, his voice calm, grounded. Ethan turned, disbelief flashing across his face. "Mind your business. Do you have any idea who I am?" The man smiled slightly. "I don't care who you are. I care about her." For the first time in years, someone had said those words to Lena, "I care about her." It broke something inside her, a quiet crack that let light seep through. The restaurant went silent. Ethan stood up, towering over the biker. His friends tensed, but the biker didn't flinch. "This is my wife," Ethan said coldly. "And she's fine." "Then let her say that," the biker replied. The words hung in the air like thunder. Lena looked around the room, faces turned away, eyes glued to their phones, pretending not to see. The whole world had turned its back on her, but these strangers, these men society judged, were the only ones willing to stand between her and danger. Her lips trembled. I'm not fine." The biker nodded, gently placing himself between her and Ethan. "Then you're coming with us, sweetheart." Ethan laughed, but it was a hollow sound. "You think you can walk out with my wife? You'll regret this." "Maybe," the biker said, "but at least I'll regret something worth it." Security moved in, but the bikers didn't fight. They stood still, calm, unafraid. Something about their presence made even the guards hesitate. The leader reached into his jacket, not for a weapon, but a card, and handed it to the maitre d'. "Veterans Brotherhood," it read. "We've seen real battles. Don't make this one of them." Lena's heart pounded as the biker offered his hand. "You don't owe him your silence," he said softly. She took it. When they stepped into the rain, Lena felt air fill her lungs in a way it hadn't in months. The city lights blurred into gold tears. One of the younger bikers gave her his jacket, and another brought her warm coffee from a street stand. They didn't ask her for her story. They didn't need to. They just stayed. At their small garage on the outskirts of the city, the men treated her like a sister. The place smelled of oil and rain, walls lined with old photos of soldiers and families, reminders of people they'd lost and promises they'd kept. The leader's name was Jack Mercer, a former Marine who'd once lost his own wife to a man who thought love was control. He never forgave himself for staying silent back then. Maybe that's why he couldn't walk away tonight. "You're safe here," Jack said, handing her a blanket. "But if you ever want to go back, that's your choice. We're not your jailers." Tears welled up. "He won't stop," she whispered. "He has people everywhere. He'll find me." Jack nodded. "Then we'll make sure when he does, you're not afraid anymore." Days turned into weeks. Lena learned to smile again, small, fragile smiles that came out when she helped cook breakfast or listened to the guys tell stories from the road. They protected her, but more than that, they gave her something she hadn't felt in years: dignity. Ethan's world, however, was unraveling. The restaurant incident had been recorded. A shaky video of him gripping Lena's wrist surfaced online, sparking outrage. His PR team scrambled, but the truth had already escaped. The same people who once worshipped him were now questioning the man behind the billion-dollar smile. When he finally tracked Lena down, it wasn't with flowers, it was with fury. He showed up at the garage one afternoon in a sleek black car, security behind him. "You think you can hide her here?" He sneered at Jack. "You're nobodies. You don't matter." Jack stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Maybe. But we matter to her. And that's enough." Lena stepped out before Jack could stop her. She looked different now, stronger, clearer. "You don't scare me anymore, Ethan," she said. "You only win if I stay quiet." He reached out, but Jack's voice cut through the air. "I wouldn't." The silence that followed was thick. The bikers had gathered around, not with weapons, but with presence. Ethan saw something in their eyes that money couldn't buy: unity. "This isn't over," Ethan spat, turning back to his car. But it was. Within days, Lena's lawyer, one of Jack's old army buddies, helped her file for divorce, armed with evidence and witnesses who were no longer afraid to speak. The video from that night became a symbol of courage, not scandal. News outlets told her story not as gossip, but as a reminder: silence only feeds power. Months later, Lena gave birth to a baby boy. She named him Mercer, after the man who showed her what real strength looked like. Jack was there in the hospital, holding the baby gently, tears hidden beneath his gruff smile. "He's got your eyes," he said. Lena looked out the window, the city glowing beyond the glass. "He's going to grow up knowing what kindness looks like," she whispered. Jack nodded. "And he'll know that not all heroes wear suits." Time passed, and the world moved on, but the story of the woman who stood up to power, and the bikers who stood by her, became something whispered in coffee shops and shared on late-night TV. People saw that courage didn't always come from headlines or heroes in capes. Sometimes it came from people society ignored, men in leather jackets who carried scars but also hearts big enough to protect a stranger. Lena opened a small foundation months later, helping women escape toxic relationships and rebuild their lives. She called it the Brotherhood Shelter. Every wall bore a quote she'd written the night she left Ethan's mansion for good: "Kindness is the only power that never corrupts." When she spoke at the opening ceremony, she looked out at the crowd: reporters, survivors, volunteers, bikers standing quietly in the back, and said, "If you see someone suffering, don't look away. You don't need to be rich or strong to help. You just need to care." The applause that followed was thunderous, but the moment she'd remember most was when Jack came up to her later, holding a small toy motorcycle for baby Mercer. "You saved more than yourself that night," he said softly. "You saved a part of all of us." She smiled through tears. "No, Jack, you saved me first." Outside, engines roared as the bikers prepared to ride again, not into battle, but into the endless miles of open road, where sometimes, even strangers become family. The city lights reflected off the puddles, the same rain that had once blurred her world now sparkling like hope. And somewhere in the quiet rhythm of those engines, Lena knew she had found what she'd been missing all along: not wealth, not perfection, but humanity. Because sometimes, it takes the most unexpected people to remind the world what love is supposed to look like.